In a world where racism and prejudice still exist, an elderly man turned a seemingly ordinary moment into an inspiring revolution. Thomas, a black man, walked into a high-end store looking for a gift for his granddaughter. But that simple act led to an unexpected confrontation that changed not only a company, but also the way we view and treat each other as a society. Follow this inspiring story, and you will realize that respect and resilience can change not only an individual, but the world. But before we dive into the story, comment below where are you watching from today, and if you like this story with its twists and moments of justice, don't forget to subscribe. On a warm spring afternoon, the soft yellow sunlight blanketed the street. Mr. Thomas Johnson walked slowly on the cobblestone sidewalk, carefully adjusting his light blue tie. He was an older black man, in his mid-60s, with a calm demeanor and a rare confidence. Dressed in a sophisticated gray suit and signature black fedora, he carried himself with an air that made it impossible to take your eyes off him. Today was a special day for him, because he was on his way to pick out a meaningful graduation gift for his beloved granddaughter, Kayla. Thomas stopped in front of a high-end store called Lux and Grace, famous for its luxury items, from sparkling jewelry to exquisite watches. In front of the glass doors, the items on display were arranged perfectly, reflecting the light like little stars. He took a deep breath, a small smile on his face. This was a gift he had long cherished, a luxury watch that he believed Kayla would cherish for the rest of her life. As soon as he entered the door, Thomas could clearly feel the atmosphere inside. The space was designed in a modern style with white and gold tones, shiny marble floors, and sparkling crystal chandeliers shining on the high ceiling. Every detail in the store exuded luxury and luxury. However, his attention was quickly drawn to a questioning gaze. Lisa, a young saleswoman, standing behind the display window, looked up at him with an unfriendly gaze. She gave a forced smile, her lips pressed tightly together as if trying to hide her true thoughts. "Hello, can I help you?" Lisa asked, her tone polite yet reserved. Thomas nodded slightly, the smile still present. "I want to find a graduation present for my niece. Maybe a watch." Lisa hesitated before stepping away from the glass counter. She looked him up and down, her eyes flickering with suspicion. "We have a variety of watches, but they're quite expensive," she said, emphasizing the last word. Thomas didn't notice the hint, or perhaps he was just used to situations like this. "Great, I'd like to see some suitable samples," he replied softly, his tone calm. In the distance, the store manager, Mark, watched silently. A middle-aged white man, Mark had a cold gaze and seemed to be pondering something when he saw Thomas enter. He approached Lisa, leaned over and whispered something in her ear. Then, both of them turned to look at Thomas with a questioning gaze, as if he were an intruder rather than a normal customer. Thomas walked slowly, stopping in front of the glass display case of watches. He examined each model carefully, his eyes shining with concentration. Meanwhile, curious and contemptuous glances began to appear from some of the other customers. A man standing nearby shook his head, looking annoyed as if Thomas's presence detracted from the luxury space. But Thomas paid no attention to that. His eyes fell on a gold watch, simple yet elegant in design. He pointed at it gently. "This one is beautiful. Can I have a look?" Lisa picked up the watch, still reluctant. "This one is a limited edition, and it costs $18,000, she said, emphasizing the number as if to gauge his reaction. Thomas chuckled. "Great. I think this will be perfect for my niece." Thomas's confidence and composure took Lisa by surprise. Instead of responding, she simply nodded and showed him her watch. The shop suddenly became quieter. Everyone's eyes were on Thomas, as if waiting for a familiar scenario. The man would back out when he heard the price, or be embarrassed when he realized he couldn't afford it. But he stood there, calm and composed, completely oblivious to those eyes. In that moment, Thomas stood as a silent yet steadfast symbol, standing firm in a world that seemed to be stacked against him. A meaningful journey was about to begin, not only for him but for the people in the store, even if they didn't realize it yet. Thomas held the watch in his hand, admiring the intricate details on the dial. It was more than just a material object, it was a way for him to express his love and pride for his granddaughter Kayla. The watch represented the values he had taught Kayla since she was a child: patience, respect, and never giving up on your dreams. However, the atmosphere in the shop was not very pleasant. Although Thomas did not show any emotion on his face, he could not ignore the suspicious gaze and rude attitude from Lisa, who was standing in front of him. "Do you want to pay now or do you need more time to consider?" Lisa asked, her voice emphasizing the word time as if to imply that Thomas could not afford it. Thomas, still polite, simply replied, "I would like to see a few more samples before I decide." Lisa gave a half smile. "Sure, but I think you should consider the watches over there." She pointed to a smaller display in the corner. "They're more reasonably priced." Thomas understood what she meant, but he didn't seem offended. He looked at Lisa, his eyes calm and sad. "Thank you, but I'm sure I'll find something suitable myself," he replied, his voice unwavering. Meanwhile, Mark, the store manager, remained near the counter, observing the situation. He did not intervene, but simply folded his arms across his chest, his eyes following Thomas's every move. Every move he made seemed to be judged, as if his presence there was out of place. As Thomas continued to move through the displays, a group of nearby customers began to whisper. A middle-aged woman in a luxurious fur coat leaned over and whispered to her friend, loud enough for Thomas to hear, "I don't understand why they let just anyone in here. It really ruins the store's image." Thomas kept walking, not looking back. He had heard such words all his life. It wasn't the first time he had been judged based on the color of his skin rather than his character or worth. Lisa, by this point, seemed to be growing impatient. She stood behind the counter, arms crossed, sighing loudly as Thomas continued to peruse the products. Finally, she walked over to Mark, whispering something that made them both glance at Thomas. Mark nodded slightly, then moved closer. "Sir, I am the manager of this store," Mark said, trying to sound polite but unable to hide the authority in his tone. "Is there anything I can help you with? We want to make sure our customers get the best possible service." Thomas looked up at Mark, giving him a small smile. "Thanks, but I'm fine. I was just looking through some samples to find the perfect gift for my niece." While Thomas was choosing the watch, memories of his poor childhood suddenly came flooding back, where he had to overcome social prejudice to study and rise up. Thomas was born and raised in a poor neighborhood in Birmingham, Alabama, in the 1960s, a time when racial segregation in America was still very strong. His parents were both workers in steel mills, working from dawn to dusk to support their family. Life was harsh, but his parents always taught their children an important lesson: the value of a person is not in the color of their skin, but in the way they live and treat others. Growing up amid social injustice, Thomas soon realized that the road ahead would not be easy. In school, he was often ridiculed by his white classmates and even discriminated against by his teachers. But instead of letting that get him down, Thomas chose to stay calm, as his parents had taught him. He learned to be patient, persistent, and focused on his goal, to escape the vicious cycle of poverty and prejudice. At 18, Thomas received a full scholarship to a small college for his excellent grades in math and science. It was the first time in his life that he felt a real ray of hope. However, entering university was not easy. He faced an environment where he was a minority, often looked down upon by both his classmates and his professors. Thomas remembers one time, during an economics lecture, a white professor looked at him and said, "Are you sure you belong here? I've never seen anyone like you achieve anything great in this field." The class burst into laughter, but Thomas remained silent. After class, he quietly returned to his dormitory, where he sat up all night reading and taking notes. He did not want to argue with words, but rather prove his worth with actions. At the end of the semester, Thomas topped the class with perfect scores, causing the professor to look at him in a different light. After graduating from college with honors, Thomas began his career in finance in New York. He worked at a small firm, where his colleagues were mostly white, and he was often assigned menial tasks despite his outstanding abilities. But he did not complain. Instead, he quietly learned, observed, and gradually asserted himself. One of the most memorable stories of his career was when Thomas discovered a major financial error in the company's reports that no one else had noticed. He presented the solution to the board of directors, saving the company from a major crisis. However, instead of being recognized for his work, he only received a cursory thank you from his superiors. "Thanks, Thomas. But we think you should focus on your main job rather than getting involved in such big things," the director said, as if to remind him that his position should be at the bottom. Thomas, however, did not let this injustice discourage him. He continued to work hard, gaining experience and connections. At the age of 35, he decided to leave the company to start his own business, a bold but necessary decision to escape the barriers that society had placed on him. Thomas's company, Johnson & Company Financial Solutions, started out as a small office with a few employees, but thanks to his dedication and sound business strategy, it quickly grew into one of the leading financial firms. He not only brought success to himself, but also opened up opportunities for many people from other minority communities. Despite his many achievements, Thomas never forgot the lessons he learned in the past. He always emphasized to his employees that don't judge people by their appearance. Everyone deserves respect. True success is when we use it to help others. Thomas's granddaughter, Kayla, is the person he is most proud of. This bright and passionate young woman is the one who reminds him of why he has worked so hard all these years. Kayla's graduation from college with high grades was the motivation for him to decide to buy that special watch. It is not just a gift, but also a symbol of perseverance, love and belief in one's own worth. Even though he has become a successful man, Thomas still cannot completely erase the mental scars he suffered from those days of being despised. That is why, when he walked into the Lux and Grace store today, he was not surprised by the way Lisa or Mark treated him. He knew that discrimination was not something that a black card or an expensive suit could erase. But he also knew that the best way to deal with it was to maintain your dignity and let your actions speak louder than words. Thomas understands that every time he overcomes such prejudices, he wins not only for himself, but also for the generations that come after him. He wants Kayla and young people like her to know they have the right to demand respect and to always believe in their own worth. Mark glanced at the watch Thomas was holding, one of the store's most expensive pieces. "This is a very special piece," he said, emphasizing each word. "And very expensive. I just wanted to make sure you were thinking about it." Thomas nodded, his expression unchanged. "I understand completely. Thanks for reminding me." However, the tension in the air was becoming more and more apparent. Mark, noticing Thomas's calm demeanor, felt challenged. He was not used to someone like him, with what he considered an inappropriate appearance, being able to maintain such composure. "Well, if you're done, I suggest you pay here," Mark said, his voice stiffening. "We have a premium merchandise policy, and quick processing will help ensure the safety of the product." Thomas held the watch box in his hand and walked slowly towards the checkout counter in the center of the store. The watch was wrapped in a luxurious leather box, symbolizing a meaningful and high-class gift for his granddaughter. At this time, the eyes of Lisa, the saleswoman, were still following his every step, a gaze mixed with suspicion and contempt. Lisa was used to dealing with clients who wore designer clothes and exuded wealth and power. But Thomas, with his plain appearance and worn shoes, did not fit her image of a worthy client. She stood behind the counter, arms crossed, waiting, her expression almost ready to say no. "Hello, I would like to pay for this watch," Thomas said, his voice calm but clear enough in the quiet space of the store. Lisa looked at the box in his hand, her eyes filled with surprise. "This watch costs almost $12,000. Are you sure you want to buy it?" Her words were clearly filled with doubt. "Sure," Thomas replied, his expression unchanged. Lisa took a deep breath, then sighed reluctantly. "In that case, I'll need to check your payment method. For this kind of value, we only accept credit cards or bank transfers. Do you have them with you?" Thomas slowly placed the box on the counter and took out a small wallet from his pocket. Lisa immediately noticed that the wallet was worn and had a torn corner. She couldn't hide the ironic smile on her lips. "You know, this isn't the kind of store where anyone can just walk in and buy," she said, typing the watch's information into the computer and looking up at him disdainfully. Thomas kept a calm smile. "Thanks for the reminder, but I think I'm capable." As Thomas handed over his credit card, Lisa paused, her eyes fixed on the shiny black card in his hand. At first, she was skeptical, thinking it might be a joke. This powerful black card not only symbolized wealth, but also the status of those who were among the few who could afford to own it. "Oh," Lisa was embarrassed for a moment, but still kept her expression serious. "This card, let me check if it's valid." She took the card and turned it over as if searching for something unusual. Then Lisa looked at Thomas, her eyes searching. "Is this really yours? We have a very strict policy of checking to ensure the safety of transactions." "Go ahead and check," Thomas replied, his voice calm. Feeling uncomfortable with his confidence, Lisa began to check the card. Mark, another employee, stood near the counter to monitor the situation. He quietly approached, leaned into Lisa's ear and whispered something that made her laugh lightly. They did not expect that an elderly man, dressed simply like Thomas, could own this black card. When Lisa made the transaction, she received confirmation that the card was not only valid, but also linked to an account with a huge balance. The computer screen displayed a number that she could not believe her eyes. "The deal has been accepted," Lisa said, her voice hesitant, as if she couldn't quite believe what she had just said. Mark, who was standing next to him, also looked down at the screen. He was startled by the account balance and immediately turned to look at Thomas, for the first time with respect. Lisa, still not able to regain her composure, asked a silly question, "What do you do?" Thomas smiled, his eyes warm but sharp. "What do you think?" Lisa stuttered, unable to answer. She knew her question was tactless, but her curiosity got the better of her. Thomas looked straight into Lisa and Mark's eyes, not angry but simply calm, as if he was used to situations like this. "Actually, I am the owner of the chain of stores you guys are working at. This is one of the branches under my management." The air seemed to freeze. Lisa was stunned, her face pale, speechless. Mark stood beside her, mouth agape. They couldn't believe their ears. You're joking, right?" Lisa stuttered. Thomas just smiled and took out a business card from his wallet. On it, the words, "Thomas Johnson, CEO and founder of Johnson Retail Group," stood out under the light. Lisa took the card, her hands trembling. "But she didn't know what else to say. Any excuses were meaningless now. Thomas took the watch box and put it in his pocket. He looked at Lisa and Mark, his voice calm but full of authority. "The way you treat customers not only affects your personal reputation, but also reflects on the culture of this company. I won't fire you, but I will definitely have a conversation with management about how we train employees in the future." He turned and walked out of the store, leaving behind a heavy atmosphere. Lisa and Mark stood there, eyes filled with regret and shame. As soon as Thomas left, Mark turned to Lisa, his voice trembling. "What do you think will happen to us?" Lisa didn't reply, she just stared at the business card in her hand, blaming herself for letting her prejudice overshadow her professionalism. The confrontation at the checkout counter was not only a lesson for Lisa and Mark, but also left a huge mark on the entire store staff. What happened in those few short minutes would completely change the way they treated customers in the future. Thomas walked out of the store, his eyes calm but his heart filled with deep concern. He was not a person who easily showed his emotions, but this time, what had just happened not only made him reflect on the system he had worked so hard to build. He did not leave immediately but stopped in front of the large glass door of the store, standing silently looking at the words, "Lux and Grace," shining brightly under the lights. Inside, Lisa and Mark stood still, their eyes not daring to leave the business card Thomas had left behind. The atmosphere in the store was heavy, as if a storm had just passed through, leaving behind unimaginable consequences. Lisa, who had always appeared confident and professional, now stood there, her face pale. "Do you think he really owns the company?" Mark asked, his voice choked up. Lisa shook her head, not because she didn't believe it, but because she couldn't face the truth. "If that's true, then we've made a big mistake, Mark. A terrible mistake." Mark looked at the computer screen, which still showed the transaction had been approved. The amount in Thomas's account was unimaginable, larger than anything he had ever seen in his life. "I think we've not only let him down, but also the entire store down." Lisa felt her chest tighten. She remembered every cold look and word she had given Thomas, and a feeling of shame flooded over her. "I treated him like he was worthless, when he was the one who created this place." While the two were still confused, the door to the office behind the counter opened. Rachel, the branch manager, walked out with a puzzled look on her face. "What's going on out here? I hear arguing." Rachel asked, her eyes sweeping between Lisa and Mark. Lisa tried to calm down, but her voice was still trembling. "Sister Rachel, just now, a customer came in to buy the most expensive watch in the store." Rachel frowned. "What's wrong with that? That's what we want, right?" Mark swallowed, handing Thomas's business card to Rachel. "You should see this." Rachel took the business card and read the clearly printed words. Her expression changed in an instant, her eyes widening in surprise. "Thomas Johnson? You mean that the old man just now is the CEO of Johnson Retail Group?" Lisa nodded, her eyes filled with regret. "We treated him badly. We thought he couldn't afford the purchase, and had a really bad attitude." Just as Rachel was still shocked by the information, the automatic glass door of the store opened again. Thomas entered again, this time not as quietly as before. He stood straight, his eyes calm but exuding authority that all the employees in the store immediately felt. "Hey everyone," Thomas said, his voice low but clear. "I think we need to talk." Rachel hurried over, her face showing concern. "Mr. Johnson, I am extremely sorry for any inconvenience you may have experienced. I take full responsibility for the actions of our staff." Thomas raised his hand to stop him, his eyes still calm. "There's no need to apologize right now. I'm not coming back here to make excuses. I want to make sure everyone learns the lesson from this situation." Thomas walked up to the counter, his eyes stopping on Lisa and Mark, making them not dare to look straight at him. "Miss Lisa, Mr. Mark, do you know what disappoints me the most?" Lisa bowed her head, her voice soft. "It's because we disrespected you, right?" Thomas nodded slowly. "Yes. But that's not all. Not only did you disrespect me, but you also reflected an unprofessional and unfair work culture. You let your personal biases dictate how you treated others. This not only hurt me, but also damaged the reputation of this company." Mark spoke up, his voice breaking. "We didn't mean to. We just didn't think you were the owner of the company." Thomas smiled slightly, but it wasn't a happy smile. Who do you think I am? An old black man dressed in plain clothes? You think someone like me can't afford to shop here? That's the biggest problem. Thomas turned to Rachel, who had been standing silently. Rachel, I didn't start this company just to make money. I want it to be a place where every customer, no matter who they are, feels respected and welcomed. If your employees don't understand that, then we've failed. Rachel nodded, her face full of regret. I will immediately organize retraining for all employees, and I promise this will never happen again. Thomas continued, his voice calm but sharp. It's not just about training. I want our entire store system to have a clear policy on diversity and inclusion. We need to do better, not just for me, but for all of our customers. As Thomas left for the second time, the atmosphere was heavy but also filled with realization. Lisa and Mark bowed to him, their eyes filled with respect and regret. Rachel walked him to the door, promising herself that she would change the way the store was run. Outside, Thomas walked slowly down the sidewalk, his eyes fixed on the distance. He felt no anger, only relief that he had had the chance to convey a meaningful lesson. Kayla, my dear niece, he thought. This watch is more than a graduation present. It is a reminder that the world may be unfair, but we can always do the right thing to change it. A small smile appeared on his face. Thomas knew that by standing up and speaking the truth, he had planted a seed of change, not just in that store, but in the system he had worked so hard to build. Johnson Retail Group headquarters, the phone in the communications department rang non-stop. Emails and messages from branches poured in like a flood. A communications team member rushed into the director's office, his voice filled with panic. We have a big problem. The story at Lux and Grace yesterday is all over social media, and people are talking everywhere. Communications Director Sophia Harper flipped open the laptop in front of her. The front pages of many online newspapers and social media sites carried an article with an eye-catching headline. Johnson Retail CEO discriminated against by his own employees at store. Sophia skimmed through the post, which detailed the events of yesterday at Lux and Grace. Another customer, who had witnessed the entire incident, posted a lengthy post with a photo of Thomas holding the watch and the powerful black card. This person's emotional posts on social networks quickly attracted millions of likes and comments. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. An elderly, polite and humble man was treated badly just because of his appearance. But you know the best part? He was the owner of the company. Not only did he handle it calmly, he taught us a lesson about how to treat each other. A truly honorable man. The story went viral, not only on platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, but also on forums and discussion groups about discrimination, social equality, and work culture. Within 24 hours, the hashtag #RespectMatters was trending. People shared their stories and personal perspectives. This is proof that you should never judge a book by its cover. Thomas is a model of calm and compassion. It's time we take a look at how we treat others, especially in the workplace. Thomas is not only a CEO but also a real-life hero. His story makes me think about how I see others. The company could not ignore it. Rachel, the manager of Lux and Grace, sent a detailed report of the incident to her superiors that night. As the story spread, Johnson Retail Group headquarters faced tremendous public pressure. We need to react immediately, Sophia said during an emergency meeting with the board. Everyone is waiting for the company to act. Otherwise, the reputation we have built over the years will be ruined. Thomas, who had sat quietly throughout the meeting, finally spoke. He didn't get angry or panicked, just nodded silently. We're going to do the right thing, not just to save our reputations, but to make real change. That same afternoon, the company released an official statement across all platforms. The incident involving our chairman, Thomas Johnson, has made us realize that there is room for improvement in the way we operate and train our employees. Johnson Retail Group is committed to creating a workplace where everyone, regardless of their background, is treated with respect and dignity. We have already begun taking concrete steps to ensure this never happens again. Accompanying the statement was a short video by Thomas. In the video, he did not focus on what happened to him, but emphasized the larger message. This is not a story about me, but a story about how we treat each other as a society. Every small action, every word we utter, has the power to create positive change or negative. I hope this story will be a reminder that respect is not a luxury, but something we all deserve. The company's statement received an outpouring of support from the community. People were inspired by the way Thomas handled the situation. Social organizations, activists, and many famous individuals also joined the discussion, turning the story into a large-scale campaign for respect and equality. Journalists, vloggers, and even teachers have begun using Thomas's story as a lesson in classes and seminars. A commentary in the New York Times wrote, "Thomas Johnson is not just a CEO, but an icon of resilience and kindness. He has proven that, in any situation, you can always choose to respond with kindness." A teacher in Chicago shared on social media, "I told this story to my students. We discussed why respect and empathy are more important than ever. Thank you, Thomas Johnson, for inspiring the younger generation." Not stopping at just making promises, the company began making systemic changes. A new training program on diversity and empathy was rolled out nationwide. Every employee from the lowest level to senior management attended these training sessions. Lux and Grace stores also adopt a new policy: customers are the most important factor, no matter who they are. Meaningful message boards are hung in the stores to remind employees and customers of the value of respect. The story not only changed Johnson Retail Group, but it also had a ripple effect across the retail industry. Other companies began to review their policies and cultures, sparking a broader conversation about how to create respectful and fair workplaces. Thomas has been a guest of honor at many leadership conferences and events, where he shares his story to encourage other leaders to think more deeply about their roles. With a calm smile, he often closed his speeches with the quote, "How you treat others is the greatest legacy you can leave." After a tumultuous few days, Thomas's story became a powerful catalyst for a radical change within Johnson Retail Group. Although the company publicly apologized and took responsibility, Thomas knew that an apology was not enough. He was well aware that concrete action was needed to not only regain the trust of customers but also redefine the core values that the company pursued. A week after the Lux and Grace store incident, Thomas called a special meeting with the entire board of directors and senior management of the company. The atmosphere in the main conference room was tense as everyone understood that this was not just a regular meeting, but an opportunity to reshape the future of the company. Thomas began in a warm but firm voice. "We have proudly called ourselves a leader in the retail industry, but the truth is that we have made serious mistakes. The incident at Lux and Grace is not the first time we have received complaints about customer service, and if we don't change now, it certainly won't be the last." He looked around the room, his eyes taking in each person. What happened in the store that day was just the tip of the iceberg of a much deeper problem, a problem with our organizational culture. This culture not only affects our customers, but also shapes how we treat each other internally. I will not let that continue. Thomas proposed a 3-step action plan. Thomas called for an anonymous, system-wide survey to better understand the issues employees were facing. He wanted to hear from every level, from salespeople to senior management. Questions are designed around work attitudes, diversity, advancement opportunities, and respect in the workplace. The results will be analyzed to identify weaknesses in the organizational culture, from which specific solutions will be developed. Thomas stressed that every employee, from seasonal workers to senior management, will be required to attend mandatory training on diversity, empathy, and professional conduct. He invited experts in social justice and behavioral psychology to design the training program. Real-life situations, including Thomas's own story, are included in the course to help employees gain a deeper understanding of the impact of discriminatory behavior. This will be an independent group within the company responsible for monitoring and ensuring that the new core values are consistently implemented. The committee will also handle any complaints related to discrimination or inappropriate behavior. Immediately after the meeting, the plan was rolled out system-wide. Stores began receiving notices of the new training programs and new standards of conduct. At the Lux & Gray store where the incident occurred, noticeable changes were taking place. Rachel, the store manager, was officially demoted for her failure to handle the situation properly. A new manager was appointed in her place, with a commitment to improving the overall culture at the store. Employees, including the one who directly discriminated against Thomas, were required to attend extensive training in customer service and professional conduct. A week later, Lux & Grace held a store-wide meeting. One longtime employee, after attending the training, shared, "I never thought that my small actions or words could hurt others. The training helped me realize that respect is not just part of the job, but also everyone's responsibility." After 3 months, the company conducted another internal survey to assess the impact of the changes. The results showed employee satisfaction rates increased by 25%. Many felt the work environment was fairer and more positive. The number of customer complaints has dropped by 40%. In particular, social media reviews of service at the company's stores have improved significantly. In an online meeting with all employees, Thomas sent the message, "We can't change the past, but we can learn from it to build a better future. The changes we make are not just to correct mistakes, but to create a company we can be proud of." I hope that every employee at Johnson Retail Group, from today onwards, will not just see customers or colleagues as part of their job, but as human beings who deserve respect and fair treatment. Johnson Retail Group's transformation has not stopped at the company itself, but has spread to the entire retail industry. Rival companies have begun to adopt similar measures, from training employees to re-establishing core values. Thomas has been invited to many seminars and television shows to share his company's story and journey of change. In each talk, he always emphasizes the same message. Success is not only measured by revenue or profit, but also by how we treat the people around us. The change in the company not only helped Johnson Retail Group regain its reputation but also increased the trust of both customers and employees. Thomas, with his vision and perseverance, turned what seemed like a crisis into an opportunity to redefine the company's core values. Looking back, he smiles as he sees employees who once misbehaved become pioneers in spreading the values of respect and kindness. Thomas's story is not only a lesson for the company, but also an inspiration for an entire industry and community. After profound changes within the company and a wave of media coverage, Thomas became a symbol not only of success but also of resilience, compassion, and commitment to social change. His story was widely shared, not only within the African American community but also with many different walks of life across the United States. Thomas, who once shied away from the limelight, now appears on television shows, in interviews, and at major events. The story at Lux & Grace is seen not only as an example of overcoming adversity but also as a testament to the power of moral leadership. "When it happened, I thought it was just another day in my life," Thomas said in an interview on the popular TV show. But the response from people, the support from the community, and the desire to make a change has motivated me to do more than I ever thought possible. This is not my story, it is all of our stories about how we choose to face injustice. Thomas has been invited to speak at events ranging from business conferences to schools and communities. Wherever he goes, he brings a message about the importance of respect, kindness, and the power of positive action. he said at an international business conference. I believe that everyone has a responsibility to create a society where no one is looked down upon because of the color of their skin, their age, or any other external factor. A high school student at the talk stood up and said, "Uncle Thomas, your story has inspired me to believe that no matter how low my starting point is, I can still achieve great things if I maintain kindness and perseverance." Thomas's story has also had a powerful impact on other organizations and businesses. They are starting to take the importance of diversity and equity more seriously. Several companies have reached out to Thomas to learn from the changes he has made at Johnson Retail Group. Thomas decided to establish the Respect and Equality Foundation with the goal of support diversity and inclusion training programs in businesses, providing scholarships to students from disadvantaged communities, helping them pursue their dreams without being hindered by prejudice, organize campaigns to raise awareness about discrimination and the importance of kindness in everyday life. Thomas said at the foundation's launch, "I want us to work together to create a world where differences are not barriers but sources of strength." Thomas's humility and compassion have made him a role model, especially for younger generations. Those who have witnessed or heard his story take home a powerful message: no matter your circumstances, anyone can stand up and make a difference. A boy named Marcus, who lived in a tough neighborhood, wrote to Thomas, "I used to think that the color of my skin would keep me from being successful. But after hearing your story, I realized that not only can I dream big, but I can also make my dreams come true. Thank you for making me believe." Thomas responded emotionally, "Marcus, I have been in your shoes and I understand the challenges you face. But remember that you are not just a boy from a poor neighborhood, you are the future, the hope. Always believe in yourself and be kind to those around you." Thomas's story has also been recognized with many prestigious awards. He received National Ethical Leadership Award for contributions to building positive corporate culture and social change. Medal of Community Excellence, awarded by nonprofit organizations in honor of his efforts to improve the lives of many. Inspirational Entrepreneur Award, presented by a major business association. Despite the recognition, Thomas remains humble. "These awards are not the destination, but the encouragement to continue my journey," he often says. "There is still a lot of work to do, and we need to do it together." Thomas is not only a symbol of success and philanthropy, but also a living legacy of how individuals can contribute to change. His name has inspired lectures, books, and even documentaries. A documentary about him, titled Thomas's Journey, From Adversity to Icon, has attracted great interest. The film not only tells the story of Lux and Grace, but also delves into Thomas's journey, from a boy growing up in hardship to a man who changed an entire community. Thomas, despite his advanced age, continues his work with undiminished dedication. He often reminds those around him, "Every day is an opportunity for us to do better, live better, and leave something better for the next generation." Thomas has become a bridge between generations, someone anyone can turn to for advice or inspiration. No matter what age he is, he radiates positive energy that is contagious to all. The image of Thomas, a man with a warm smile and eyes full of optimism, has become a symbol of hope and change that everyone wants to strive for. The life of Thomas, a man who may have been swept away by the tide of time and adversity, but with his resilience and belief in justice, he changed not only a company but also a community. This change was not only a transformation in the working environment but also a revolution in the thinking and actions of each individual towards seemingly immutable issues. But Thomas's story is proof that a small action, no matter how simple, can change the world. A few months after the Lux and Grace incident, Thomas hosted a grand celebration at the headquarters of Johnson Retail Group, the company he had built and maintained with such passion for more than 30 years. The celebration was not only a celebration of the company's cultural transformation efforts, but also an opportunity for everyone to reflect on Thomas's journey, what had been achieved, and, most importantly, what was being built as a result of those changes. During the ceremony, Thomas stepped onto the stage in a simple but stylish suit, his eyes still warm and full of humility. He looked down at the crowd, his colleagues, the employees who had witnessed the change of the company and of himself. He smiled, then slowly began to share. "We've come a long way, but I want to emphasize that this journey is not mine alone. It's our journey. My story, from the day I walked into the Lux and Grey store to today, is just one piece of the larger puzzle that we're building together. We're not just changing the company, we're creating a world where everyone can stand tall and be proud of who they are." Thomas never forgot his early days. He knew that no path was easy, but the hardships helped him form a philosophy that he carried with him throughout his life. From the years of working hard in a small company to building Johnson Retail Group from scratch, Thomas learned that respect is not something that comes naturally but must be earned through one's actions. In every decision, whether in work or in his personal life, Thomas is steadfast in his principles. Everyone deserves to be treated fairly and with respect, regardless of their background or past. He always sees every difficulty as an opportunity to learn and grow. When he entered the high-end store, despite the discrimination, Thomas not only did not feel discouraged but also saw it as a valuable lesson for him to be able to make a real change. His patience and calm attitude changed the perception of not only the employees at the store but also everyone who witnessed the incident. Therefore, today's ceremony is not only an opportunity to honor Thomas's career but also an opportunity to look back at the important lessons he left for everyone. When Johnson Retail Group decided to implement diversity and inclusion training, Thomas didn't just stand back and dictate. He participated in the training sessions, shared his own experiences, and encouraged everyone to reflect on and change their behavior. Thomas emphasized that change doesn't just happen with others, it starts with you. Employees now work not only for the benefit of the company but also for the benefit of the community. They understand that every small action can make a big difference. Small gestures such as a sincere greeting or a smile when interacting with customers have become natural habits in the company. The spirit of solidarity and empathy has created a friendly and open working environment where each employee feels like an important part of the collective. The community outside the company changed as well. Thomas's story quickly spread through the media, and was told in speeches, articles, and conference discussions. Thomas was recognized not only as a leader but also as a positive change maker in the community. Nonprofits began partnering with him on campaigns to raise awareness about racism and the importance of building a just and inclusive society. One of the most memorable moments of the celebration was when Thomas stood up and shared some profound words of encouragement with the next generations. "Life is never easy, and we will always face challenges. But challenges are not a reason to give up. In fact, challenges are opportunities for us to prove that, no matter what, we can still get up and move forward. Each of us has a mission, a reason to exist in this world. Never let circumstances or anyone tell you that you are not good enough. Believe in yourself, and treat others the way you want to be treated." Thomas's words resonated with everyone present at the ceremony. They were not just words, but a profound reminder of the importance of respect, kindness and resilience in life. As the ceremony ended, the lights were bright and the music was playing. Thomas stood quietly alone in the corner of the room, looking around and feeling the change taking place around him. He did not seek recognition or honor, but he knew that he had accomplished something greater than any personal victory. Thomas's legacy will be remembered not only through the transformation of the company, but also through the people he inspired and the lives he changed. Generations to come will remember him as a symbol of resilience and kindness, a man who stood up, faced challenges, and changed the world, even if it was just a small step.